So yeah, recruitment is actually my favourite part of the business. Like, I absolutely love it. And the reason I love it, and I never used to, oh yeah, if you can't have cameras on, don't worry. If you can, pop them on. Yeah, the reason I never used to is because I think I lacked confidence with how to recruit people. And I wouldn't say I'm a pro at all now, I don't recruit one every day, but I would say it is one of my strengths and I am quite confident at it. And I think you have to get in that mindset when it comes to recruitment, because that's how you come across to people has a massive influence on how people perceive you and kind of whether they trust you to get started in the business with you, if that makes sense. So I mainly recruit on Instagram. I do use Facebook as well. I'm going to talk through them both separately because I personally think they're two very different platforms. But Instagram is my absolute favourite and I just love it. I'm going to start with Facebook because I feel like Facebook's a little bit more simple, and I don't feel I spend as much time on it in terms of recruitment. So obviously, in terms of posting, okay, you will hear people talk about your indirect recruitment posts. So these are things like, obviously my examples are going to be very mum based. So if you're not a mum, it'll be slightly different, but you'll kind of pick it up. So things like me being at soft play with the kids, putting a post up that says something like, I love having the time freedom to be able, like for example, on Monday and Friday, I obviously don't work because of the business. So loving my time freedom on Monday and Friday to be able to spend time with my children. But yeah, I can still earn an income. How amazing is that? Okay. In that post, I'm not asking anybody to join my business. I'm not saying that I'm recruiting. I am just saying, this is what I do. I have this time freedom because of this opportunity that I do. And I'm just kind of like showing the business as part of my lifestyle. Okay. It's not spammy. It's not, spam, join my team. It's just me documenting that. And honestly, I personally don't do this enough. Like, I think that's people's biggest downfall with this business in terms of recruitment is we don't kind of share the lifestyle indirect recruitment stuff enough. Because if you don't do those posts, when you come to do your direct ones where it's like, who would love to earn £200 plus a month from your phone, they don't work because people have to kind of see you in the business, you getting the benefits, not financially, it could just be your time for them to believe they could do it, if that makes sense. So I would look at your page now. And maybe you've just started recruiting and that's fine. Have a little look at your posts, maybe over the last week, and just think, how many indirect recruitment posts have I done? Because I was looking and I was like, oh my God, I've not done enough. So that's going to be my focus for this week. Then look and how many direct ones have you done? And make sure they kind of tally up so you've got the same amount of each, if that makes sense. So posting is quite straightforward. Obviously, we often put post examples, we send it out for you new guys, for your status ideas. But remember, in the Power Movement training group and also our TLJ Facebook group, there's loads of post examples you can use in there. But I would say try and make them more personal. And this is where as well with recruitment, what you'll find is once you start finding your feet with the business a bit more and you make your posts more personal to you. So obviously, yeah, we can all still copy and paste ones, that's fine. But if you really write from the heart, like my big reason for loving the business will be not the same as anybody else's. There'll be elements that are same, but it'll be different in some way. So you have to kind of talk from your heart with this because people will join Sam's team for Sam. People will join Jesse's team for Jesse. People will join my team for me. People are going to join you for different reasons because they relate to you in a different way. So for them to relate to you, you have to share who you are. So really make sure you do your direct recruitment posts and your indirect because they're so important. Obviously with your stories, this is my favorite way of documenting the business and how it fits in my life, and I find it easy to do it now because it's kind of just a hobby that I've done for so long, and it's something I think once you pick it up it becomes a lot easier. So obviously make sure you've got your Instagram, your Facebook stories linked, so you can make, and I have an album on my phone that's called Stories, loads of pre-made stories, some business, some products. So for recruitment I have loads of them. I used to make them very generic, and I used to make them very kind of like not about me. I learned very early on that kind of was a bit of a downfall because yes, I was talking about the business, why it was amazing, but I wasn't relating it to me. So when you look at my stories now, most of the time, I do obviously share, when we get paid and stuff, people's messages about their pay, but most of my stories, it's me on there. So if I make a slide on Unfold, often I can't share them because it's just for me, because that's again what people buy into. So if you're not talking about you, and if you've just started this business, even if you haven't hit your promotion yet, you still have something to talk about because you've joined the business. So all those issues that people are on the fence about, thinking, oh, like one big thing, I haven't got time. Like a lot of us have kids. I always say, if you have kids, you don't have time anyway. You can just talk about that on a site. It doesn't have to be that you've earned loads of money, okay? To be honest with you, most of the time when people join with me, yes, they want to earn the money, but they really like hearing about how I have me back, you know, I have more confidence. And that anybody can talk about that. It doesn't have to be, even if you've just joined 2 weeks ago, okay, you're probably way more confident now in terms of the business than you were when you first started. So my advice would be, for your stories, make some content that's purely for you. You can use like Unfold. I use Canva a lot. Save them into an album on your phone. So if you are busy, you can just pop them up and always put a poll on. And I've actually got someone who, hopefully, fingers crossed, she's joining next week, purely from someone who she wasn't following me. I think she found me off one of my reels and she voted on my poll about the business. And I messaged her. She's like, yeah, I'm interested. And she's going to join next week. So they do really, really work, but make them personal to you. Another good one is talking to your stories, which I did a little bit today. So just in the car earlier, I just spoke about how I've been in the car for ages, but for me, it's not a waste of time. I've been working on my phone, doing stuff on my business. There's going to be people watching being like, oh, I haven't got time, but they may commute on the train for an hour every day, you know, and that's business time. They can work on their business in that time. So talk to your stories about it, because again, it's more personal, but always put a poll on there as well about the business. So that's for your stories, that's for your posts, okay? In terms of your messaging, so I personally on Facebook, and there is a video on our YouTube channel about connections. If you haven't watched that, go and have a watch of it. I very much go down the route of when I add someone, and this has kind of changed over the years I've done this, but what I feel works the best now, it's very much Ross's method. When I add someone, I'm adding my tribe, so mainly mums, people who I've got something in common with. If I was going to add an 18-year-old who goes out partying every week, we're not going to have much in common. She's going to think I'm boring because, you know, we just don't relate to each other. So I try and add people that are your tribe, and you will pick that up kind of, you know, as you get to know you more. Add those people. So I add them. I'll obviously send a message, we'll have a conversation. I tend to then strike up another conversation, maybe like later in the week, or I might send like a nice quote off Pinterest, like a self-care one or something. Then the third time I will go in, hang on, let me just, I'll come back to that in one sec, Jessie. The third time I go in, I then message them and say, hey, I don't know whether this would be of any interest to you. No worries if not, but I actually work with other mums and I help them earn an income from their phone. I know you're a mum as well. Just wanted to mention it in case you were interested. Did you want more information? Very kind of light-hearted. We've already had 2 conversations. We know each other's kids' names, that kind of thing. It's not weird because I've already spoke to them, okay? And you never know when someone might be like, yes, I need this opportunity. And that's what you have to remember in your head. And this is what I think of. Like when I was messaged randomly off Instagram, the person who recruited me, we had nothing in common. She doesn't do the business anymore, but I'd never spoke to her. I almost didn't open the message. But when I saw that message, I was like, this is what I need. And I'd been waiting my entire life for this and had no idea. So think about it like that, because you may message someone and it might completely change their life because you've messaged them. So that's how I go on in terms of Facebook Messenger. I'll message about the business. I'm just going to come back to Jessie's question really quickly, I'll forget. Mine vanishing. Yeah, so sometimes they do want that your stories will vanish on your poll, but they sometimes come back. So my advice would be just every few hours, just check your poll. If they go, it's annoying, but often mine come back. It's a bit weird, but I think Instagram's playing tricks a little bit. Yeah, so obviously when you speak to someone about the business and they say, yes, they're interested, write their name down in a book, or if you've got the connections book like Ross has done, you'll just jot them down as you've offered the opportunity. And then what you want to be doing is obviously checking back in with them, because the fortune is in the follow-up. Most people do not join this business straight away. Some do, like I did, but most people don't. Most people, I think I took 2 days. Most people take a few weeks, some a few months, some even a few years. Like Jessie, I always wind her up now. She's joined after 3 years. So it doesn't mean they're not interested. They don't join straight away, okay? And obviously with your follow-up, you can just say things like, hey, have you had any more thoughts on the business? When you've spoken to them, and if they do say yes, you can do a couple of things. So my personal advice to you would be, as soon as you feel confident enough, do a short 2-minute video, it doesn't have to be long, of you talking about you, why you joined the business, why you love it. Again, it doesn't have to be you've earned loads of money. It doesn't have to be that you've hit all these promotions. Just say why you joined, why you love it, because you're most relatable when you first start. You have to remember that, because when people are like me 3 years in now, people don't, and I get this a lot, people always say to me, oh, I can't do it because I'm not confident like you. They don't relate to me in that way anymore because I've gone on such a journey with my self-development that I am unrelatable in that way. Whereas when I first joined, they would have related to me way more. And I didn't even think about that when I first started, and I really missed a trick there. So just think about that. You are most relatable. Do a video about you. The reason I say this is because obviously we've got, if you're not confident, that's fine. We've got our videos on our YouTube channel that you can send where I talk about like my business story. There's like Jenna's, Sam's, Jess's, loads of them on there as well. And there's one where I talk about the business just really briefly. I talk about the joining fee as well. So I would send that over. But people get to know you, they buy into you, they join your team. That's why it's important that whenever you feel confident to get your video on there, you can still send mine or your upline to whoever as well if you want, but they'll just relate to you more if you're on there, if that makes sense. And obviously when you send the videos, what I tend to do is 24 hours later, no more than that, I'll just say, hey, lovely, hope you're okay. Did you get a chance to watch those videos? Some will say no, some will say yes, and then they might not say anything, some won't reply at all. You just have to, I always say, kind of follow up a few times. So you might say the next time something like, hey, I'm just signing someone up. Obviously, you know, if you're not, don't. I just thought I'd not check back in with you. You know, are you still interested? Have you got any questions? Or if there's an opportunity call like Danny and Ross do on a Monday, tag them in the opportunity call, things like that. Once I've followed up a few times, I don't pester, because what you don't want to do is put people off. However, I obviously do my A to Z message, which, you know, it's on our messaging video on YouTube, but just briefly, all it is going through your A to Z Facebook friends list and messaging. Like, I try and do 50 a day, but I get blocked loads at the minute. And at the minute, I'm just sending like a self-care quote through all my Facebook friends list. So by doing that, if you've got someone that you spoke to the business maybe 3 months ago, you checked in 3 times, they never replied, but they're still getting your messages because they're not blocked your messages, by just sending that, you're not pestering them, but you're just checking in with them. And when the time is right for them, they will want to join the business with you, if that makes sense. Okay, so just keep them on your radar. So that's kind of Facebook, really, how I would do that. You obviously can message people, and I have done this in the past. I've added people, particularly when it's free sign up. So obviously right now it's free sign up in America, and obviously a lot of other places, but I know America's kind of like a big one. You could add people from America, and you could say like, hey, I've got this free business opportunity, do you want to mention it? I have done a bit of that at the minute because it's free. You might have people say like, oh, you shouldn't cold message, things like that. But do you know what? If you're not, someone else is. And that's the way I think about it. So I would mix it up a little bit, you know, maybe try that. If you're not comfortable with that, don't do that. You could just kind of build the relationship up. That is the best way to do it. But don't worry. And my advice to you would be, yes, we want to recruit people because if we want to build a big business and we want to build a team. However, focus more on what are you doing to build that team. So like for me, I know in my head, my aim is 100 Instagram messages a day, depending if I get blocked. I know if I send 100, I should get a minimum of 10 back saying yes, okay? I know those 10 people are not going to join that day. Be great if they did, probably not. But I know that they are interested. Out of those, 5 might drop off and say no, they might watch the video, no, I'm not interested. But I'll have between 1 and 5, give or take, who they don't join straight away. They might say they need more time, but they are on my radar. They're going to be watching me on my social media, and they're probably going to join at some point. So I might not recruit, you know, 3 that week, but I've got like, I don't know, 10 who are interested. Focus more on that. If you're not speaking to anyone about the business, that's where you need to up your messaging, you know, kind of change it up a little bit. But if you're speaking to a lot and you're having business conversations, but you're not getting recruits, that doesn't mean that you won't, if that makes sense, okay? So really focus on, like, what are the kind of income producing activities you're doing in order to recruit, if that makes sense. I'm just going to check the chat as I go. Yes, they will join eventually. They absolutely will. I always say, like, if someone says to you, like, they want to earn more money or they want more time, I actually don't know another way of how they're going to achieve both of those things unless they join another company and they have, obviously, some people have massive success in other companies, that's fine. I believe ours is the best, but most people are not going to do that, okay? So in my eyes, the reason they wanted to join, maybe they can't afford to pay their bills and have extra money, or they can't afford to holidays or Christmas or whatever, or they're a mum and they want to spend more time with their kids. They've still got that problem, okay? It's just they're just not ready yet to join. But in 6 months, if they still have that problem, they might just be like, do you know what? I'm just gonna join. Silly question, do we gain from recruiting them? So when someone joins your business, and this is an important thing to know actually, because you might get people say this, we do not get like paid to recruit people, because that is actually what a pyramid scheme is, and there are some companies out there that do that and it is illegal. So if anybody ever says to you, and you'll get this all the time, oh, I'm not doing that business, it's a pyramid scheme. One, it's not, because we don't get paid to recruit people, and that is illegal, and you can obviously say that. Two, I always go back to, I'm not going to go on about this, but I always go back to the whole point of, well, actually, the entire working world is a pyramid, because no one goes from the shop floor of Morrison's and becomes the owner. Yeah, this business where everybody gets to the top is a pyramid. I'm like, okay, hun, whatever. So that's, yeah, obviously we don't get paid to recruit them. However, you get commission as well as they do, obviously, on any orders they put through. So it does get a little bit complex, so it's all on the office if you want to have a little look at the details. But yeah, just know that when you build a team, so let's say you're going for senior partner, okay, that's 2,500 points. That works out at roughly 16 shakes. You can do that on your own. People do it on their own. However, obviously it becomes easier if you have a team, because you still have to get your own 825 points for all point positions. However, if you've got a teamie who's going for, let's say, partner plus, and you get your 85, they get their 85, that counts towards your points, if that makes sense. So that's why recruitment is really good. And obviously, you know, as you get higher up in the business, you go for bigger positions, they make up like your whole business pay line. So yeah, it is. And you know what? You might join this business and not want to build a big business. You might want to earn a couple £100 extra a month. And I would say you could probably do that on your own. You don't really need a team. However, I always think you get to a point with this business where if you really embrace it and you go on the journey with the business, then you'll almost feel guilty for not offering it to other people. And that's how I feel now. And I never used to, but I do now. So I personally think most people who are in this business, they will recruit in the end, whether they kind of set out to do or not, because you have this amazing opportunity to change your life. Why would you not share it? Like I always say, we have the honey pot, like people need this. Okay, so Instagram, this is the main way that I would recruit people. And I absolutely love Instagram. If you haven't read through, I did send it a while ago, the Instagram training pack that I did. Have a little read through that, because I do think it's quite like a simple one. It just makes it really like, just really simple to read, but to gauge how your Instagram should be set up. So I would say with your Instagram, you want it to look very lifestyle based, okay? So if you look at mine, you'll only ever see if I've got a result picture of myself. I won't ever have like my before or after, or it'll just be me at that moment in time. I won't have products on there. I won't be spammy. Why? Because I want to recruit for my Instagram. Weirdly, I actually get more sales from my Instagram than Facebook, because I get them all through my stories, because I very much kind of show me with the product. So I actually think that the fact I don't put stuff on my grid doesn't hold me back from getting sales. But it does massively help me get teamies, because you've got to remember, okay, people, when you mess them about the business, the first thing they're going to do is look at your Instagram. If your Instagram is product, testimony, that kind of thing, they're going to be like, oh God, that looks spammy, I'm not doing that. And they probably won't be interested. And that might sound, you know, oh, we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but people do. They do it all the time. So you want your Instagram to look really pretty. And I often get, when I message people about the business, I get this quite a lot of people message back and say, oh, I've had loads of messages like this, but you actually sound like a real person. And I'm like, that's really interesting they say that, because I'm the same as a lot of people that have messaged them, but I just show me on there. It's very lifestyle based, and people, like I said, they buy into you, okay? They join your team because of who you are and who you show you are. So it's really important to get that across on your page. So my advice would be keep your Instagram very lifestyle based and put all your products in your stories. In terms of recruitment, I do recruitment posts, like direct ones, on my Instagram, and I will do that occasionally. But again, I'll try and keep it very lifestyle based, just kind of so people can get to know me off it. So my recruitment is mainly from my messaging. Obviously, I do my polls as well. Like I said, I got a team, well, hopefully getting a teamie from that. But my messaging is where I mainly get that. And you know what? This business is a numbers game. Absolutely is a numbers game. You can have the most incredible social media, and you can be like doing posts every hour. I can guarantee if you are not messaging people about the business, you won't go that far that quick, if that makes sense, okay? And some people, and it blows my mind, do this business and they do it for years and they don't message people about the business. And I'm like, are you crazy? Like, why would you not? And people say things like, oh, I just don't want to annoy people. And I'm like, yes, but you might change someone's life. Like, you can't worry if you annoy someone. Like, who cares? And do you know what? Like, I always think I'm not ever offending somebody by messaging them. If they get offended, that's their issue. Like, that's not on me, okay? If I message them about business and they say no, okay, no problem. But if they say yeah, like I've immediately bettered their life, because I've opened their eyes to this opportunity. So how I do it is I will search, I tend to do hashtags and places. So for example, places is a good one. So wherever you are, let's say you go to like a local farm park, search that on Instagram, go through on there on the pictures, click recent, because the top, if you click top, it tends to be like big accounts that might already kind of be doing stuff. Click recent, and then what you want to do is go through, find an account. I do three things. I like quite a lot of their posts. I will comment on one of their posts and I will say something like, hey lovely, I love your page, would love to collaborate with you and get you earning from your phone. I've messaged you. And the reason that's important is because if you're not initially following them, which most of mine I'm not, sometimes depending on their settings, your message goes into a separate inbox and they might not see it. And I get a few people message say, oh, I'm so glad you commented, I didn't see your message. And then I will go into their inbox and again, you want to write your message like kind of from the heart. So I'll just say something like, hey lovely, I can't remember what I say now. I'm looking to work with the mums and get them earning from their phone. I think your page is great. Would you be interested? I don't really give anything away. Because again, if I say a health company, those judgmental people get their judgmental hats on. They're like, no, I'm not doing that. And so I didn't say anything. They're like, oh, like, yeah, I'm intrigued. I could earn anything from my phone. And obviously, like, they want to know more because you don't want to give too much away. So I aim to do, like I said, 100 of these a day. Which might sound like a lot, but if you break it down to chunks of like 20, and maybe don't do 100, maybe do 20, okay? Say you're going to do 20 a day, whatever's manageable for you. And I will obviously message them. Like I mentioned on the call the other week, you can have a separate inbox on your Instagram. So if you make your account, like I think it's called a creator's account, you can have 2 inboxes on there. And you can basically then, anyone who says yes, I swipe the message across into my separate inbox. So I know that all my potentials are in a separate inbox. I wish they had this on Facebook. It would make life so much easier because then for following up, you just know they're there. When they say yes, they are interested. And again, I have played around with this for the last 3 years, but I found something I think works for me is you can do a couple of things. So one, you can obviously, people will say send a script, and particularly when you're new, like that tends to be the thing people want to do. However, if you get a really long script about the business, people tend to be like, oh God, like I'm not reading that, and they just don't read it. However, I then used to try and get them onto Facebook and use our business opportunity group. However, I'd lose people on Facebook, they wouldn't add me, that kind of thing. I'd then send my highlight, which I do still do, but sometimes they wouldn't get sent through properly, that kind of thing. So what I'm personally finding is working well now is, again, using our YouTube channel, is I just go into the video, like my business story, the one I talk about the business, I copy and paste the link to them and I say, hey, have a little watch of these videos. And again, that looks a bit more professional because it's on YouTube, and let me know your thoughts. Send them over. So again, you can get